Okay, so as we go through here with Acuna, this is the front view. We're going to start with the front view, and one thing we see is um, right at front foot plant, you can see how closed off he is. His front toes are like right on the white line, and his back toes aren't. So he's a guy that closes off pretty good. Most big leaguers do. Um, because their hips rotate really well. And one of the issues with young players I see is that they're all like taught to rotate really fast. So they just spin their hips and then they spin their shoulders. And that creates a real problem when those two spin together. Okay. I mean, I never use the term spin, but spinning off has a negative connotation, rotating doesn't. But you can over rotate, and that would be a bad thing. So, this, a lot of times with the feet, you know, going a little bit more towards, for him, the second base side, just allows him to stay on pitches. That's why he hits a lot of home runs to right center field. And he hits a lot of really far home runs to right center field, if I'm not mistaken. Like they're 440 feet sometimes. And as he gets to the ball, he's a big thrower, I would say. He's a big barrel thrower. You can just see how he kind of gets the barrel lagged back here. See how the barrel's kind of pointing towards the catcher's shoulder guard, his left shoulder guard. And then from there, there's not a lot of movement with the rest of the body except his barrel. Like he's just releasing the knob left and throwing that barrel through, and he gets his right arm really straight. Now, if we look at this when he hits it, his belt, his hips are not rotated past the pitcher. I mean, maybe they're rotated, his belt's facing the pitcher, but his belt is not facing left field. Okay. And his chest is not facing left field. Okay. He keeps all that back really, really well. That's the hardest thing for young players to do, is not over rotate on those pitches. And if we look at this pitch, skip pitch to hit, right? It's like, um, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but there's 6.5 balls roughly that cover home plate. Okay. So like 1, 2, I mean, this is very rough. 3, 4. Oh, that was a bad one. I'm gonna have to overlap. 5, and then like 6.5, right? Cross home plate. So this is like ball 5, right? So this is a pretty good ball to hit here for him because he's closed off. Now, if they would have thrown him ball 1 here, they would have done this. Man, that would have been tough for him to get to if he closed down this much. I mean, he would have had to really turn and hit it. He probably would have pulled it foul if he were to hit it. Now, probably would have pulled his hands in a little bit more, but that would have been a hard pitch for him because his front foot is so close to the plate. So, did he have a plan? Was he looking for a ball middle away? Maybe that's what he does. Maybe he looks for a ball like, 4, 5, and 6. This is the zone he looks, right? And if he gets anything in that zone, he's going to unleash. If he gets anything in here, yeah, he's going to take it, right? You got to have a plan. You got to be smart. You got to know what you can do. So as we continue through here, how about the guy talking about, hey, whatever you wear at the plate, was it Bill James the other day? Whatever you wear at the plate, wrist guards, elbow guards, shin guards, you got to run the bases with them. Thought that was a pretty cool rule. It's going to save the first base coach some work. Okay, so now if we take him to the stride. Okay, so very different than our textbook hitters that we've looked. He's got so much stuff on. Yeah. So, he's very different. Now, not with his stride. Okay, he's very good with his stride. This is a nice base. He doesn't hunch over. He's not a big squatty guy, right? But he gets to pretty much a perfect triangle here. The weight goes to the inside of his back foot. Okay. But look at his bat, right? Like his bat is almost straight up, kind of like Alonso's kind of in this position, but his hands are a little bit lower. Most guys are here. And by most, probably 95% of major leaguers, their knob is facing the catcher and the barrel is right above the middle of their head. Okay. They almost all fit into that category. If we look at his shoulders, his front shoulder is not down very much. Okay. Again, we're at the heel plant position. His hips really aren't open that much. I mean, if we look at his separation, everybody's like, K-vest guru and sensor guru, and you got to create 40 degrees of separate. Donaldson, right? Gets into that big stretch position. if you look at Acuna, his chest is maybe facing there and his hips are facing there, like 20 degrees of torque. That's probably the least amount of torque of any major leaguer. And would we say that Ronald Acuna doesn't have very much power? Yeah, I think he has pretty good power. Okay. So there's different ways to create power. He's a guy that throws his hands. He's a guy that releases the barrel. Okay? I mean, this is a cookie, right? But a guy that dumps the barrel, that swings up too much would have a hard time catching up to this pitch. Okay? So I'm bringing him, just so you know, Jim, right before contact when his barrel's over his front knee, and I'm going to draw a line of the pitch plane. Okay? So here's the middle of the ball here. The pitch is kind of moving this way. Okay. How long is he on that line? He has a little tiny drop underneath here. So he's going to get exposed back there if he was to hit it over his back thigh. Well, he shouldn't do that. Okay. He would get exposed here, right, at this midpoint. He might even get exposed at the front knee where he would pop that up. But right at his front ankle, right, it's go time. Like the meat of his barrel is right on that. And then it stays on it, but then it gets off of it. Okay. So honestly, on this pitch, he was probably only going to be successful in that one window, right before contact and right after contact. A very small window. If he was late, he was going to swing under and foul it back. So if we go back to a lot of Acuna pitches, does he foul a lot of balls straight back? Yes. We go back to JJ's question. Would he be better if his barrel didn't drop as much early in the swing? Yes, he would absolutely be more consistent. Now, would he launch as many high fly balls? I don't know. I don't think he would. And would his power numbers go down? Possibly. Would his slugging go up? Possibly, because he's going to not miss pitches and he's going to hit a lot more line drives. But this is like a perfect where he drops underneath that line by 2 inches and then he extends really well. Look at his extension, right? Without rolling over. He gets to a great power V position, both arms straight, barrel shooting straight out. I mean, that's a really great extension position. So remember, if you're a player, you have players that drop underneath that line, but then they extend really well, they're going to consistently hit balls in the air. Okay, they're not going to hit very many ground balls. And if they're big and strong and they create enough, bat speed and exit velocity, then the ball goes over the fence. If you were to teach this to a 10, 11, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old freshman in high school, they're just going to hit fly balls to the outfielders, right? And they're gonna get caught because they don't have the strength yet. If we look at the rest of his swing, it is textbook. Okay, you can see his chest here at contact. He's not over rotating. Okay, you can see his back shin. If we draw that line on his back shin, it's below his front knee, right at the bottom of his front knee. His front leg is straight. His back heel is super high. He didn't squish the bug. His back foot kind of came up and forward a little bit. Okay, no, let's look at his head, right? We were talking about that earlier today. Okay, again, heel plant. I mean, this is I'm not going to say funny, but it's a different heel plant position than what we're used to seeing with guys. Most guys have their front shoulder down and in more, and most guys have the back cocked. And he's very flat with his shoulder, and then it kind of goes from there. So as he continues through, look at his head pull back, right? His head's pulling back away from that line, right? We kind of talked about that, keeping the head behind the ball. That's exactly what that means. Okay, so this is just good stuff here with Acuna that we're talking about and trying to, figure out what makes guys. Not everybody's the same. Okay, he's one of the most talented guys in the world. We also talked about the arm bar. Okay, would he be able to rotate faster with his arm bent? Maybe. I don't know. Probably. But notice how it moves together. Like he bars his front arm at heel plant. Most players start the bar here. The fact that his arm is straight and then he turns means he's okay. And then he still pulls the arm out in front. So I always use him for players that I have that have an arm bar because that's a really hard thing to fix is an arm bar. And he does a great job of controlling it. It's straight there at heel plant. I wouldn't teach that. but then he turns together and then he starts to pull out in front and clear space. So even though his front arm is straight, he's able to pull it forward and create space. If he kept that arm barred against his chest, that would create real problems. So anyway, just kind of a good analysis here of what Ronald Acuna does and why he's successful and how he could be more successful. But quite honestly, his timing is great. And when his timing is good, when he's hitting balls here, he's going to be super hot. Like he's going to hit, 5 home runs in 7 days. But when his timing is off and he's hitting it back here at his front knee or he's an inch out in front of that box, then he's going to really struggle with consistent contact.